Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Pharm Easy. Today, we will start a new topic that is about skeletal muscle. And the lecture will include introduction to skeletal muscle, its organization, physiology, and the neuromuscular junction. So, we will begin it with the introduction of skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle. These are the muscles which are attached to bones and allow movements and various functions. Skeletal muscle comprises 30 to 40% of total body mass. These are the voluntary muscles and composed of cells called as myocytes. Functions of skeletal muscle are body movement, maintaining body posture, controlling body temperature, and stabilizing of joints. And this figure shows the muscle striations and the nuclei. And in this figure, this is skeletal muscle and it comprises of myofibers. And this is a transverse section of fascicle and contains blood capillaries, macrophages, satellite cells, endomysium, perimysium, and interstitial cells. This is a single myofiber. Now, our next topic is organization of skeletal muscle. As we know that skeletal muscle contains several myofibers as well as blood vessels and nerves. And its outermost covering, that covers entire muscle in a connective tissue sheath called as epimysium. Within it, cells are collected into separate bundles called as fascicles. And each fascicle is covered by connective sheath, perimysium. Within the fascicles, individual cells have outer covering sheath called as endomysium. Skeletal muscle attaches the muscle to bone, which is known as tendon. Now, understand these points very clearly with the help of this figure. This is a skeletal muscle, means muscle which is attached to bone. Outer covering of entire muscle is epimysium. And within it, fascicles are present. Outer covering of fascicle is perimysium. And within each fascicle, muscle fibers are present. And outer covering of muscle fiber is known as endomysium. So, outer layer is epimysium, middle one is perimysium, and innermost is endomysium. I hope you understand it very well. Next topic is skeletal muscle fiber. It is a roughly cylindrical structure and lying parallel to one another. Longest muscle fiber is known as sartorius muscle, which is 600 mm in length. Cell membrane of skeletal muscle is known as sarcolemma, and its cytoplasm is known as sarcoplasm. It has special oxygen-binding substance which is myoglobin. It has also thick and thin filaments which are arranged in repeating units called sarcomere. The specialized smooth endoplasmic reticulum, called as sarcoplasmic reticulum, that stores, releases, and retrieves calcium ions. Thick filaments of sarcomere are dark bands and made of the protein known as myosin. And thin filaments are light bands and made of the protein known as actin. Now we will study about the sarcomere. It has various bands such as a band, I band, M line, H zone and Z line. A band which is also known as an isotropic bands. Simply it is the dark band which contains complete thick filament that is myosin. As the diagram shows, these dark bands are called as a band. I band which is also known as isotropic bands. These are the light bands that contains thin filament which is actin. Look at the diagram. This lighter region is actin, known as I band. M line is the middle line which contains protein called as myosin. It is the center of the sarcomere. H zone. It is the area between M line and Z disc. And this zone contains only myosin, means thick filament. As the diagram shows, this is the H zone which is present between M line and Z disc. And it has only myosin filament. Now our next topic is physiology of muscle contraction. A signal sent by the central nervous system via motor neurons and initiate muscle contraction. Release of acetylcholine at neuromuscular junction generates an action potential. And when this action potential spreads through the muscle fiber, calcium ions are released in the sarcolemma. This calcium binds to troponin on actin filament and exposes active sites of myosin. Action fibers and Z-line pull towards the center and the band becomes smaller, but the A band stays the same width. At full contraction, actin and myosin or thin and thick filaments overlap on one another. Now, in this figure, the filament sliding process of contraction can only occur when myosin binding sites on the actin filaments are exposed by a series of steps that begins with calcium entry into sarcoplasm. Tropomyosin winds around the chains of the actin filament and covers the myosin binding sites to prevent actin from binding to myosin. The troponin-tropomyosin complex uses calcium ions binding to troponin C to regulate when the myosin heads form cross bridges to the actin filaments. Cross bridge formation and filaments sliding will occur when calcium is present, and signaling process leading to calcium release and muscle contraction. This is a skeletal muscle which is attached to bone known as tendon. And it contains several muscle bundles. Each muscle bundle contains many fascicles. Each fascicle contains muscle fiber that has myofibril. And it consists of sarcomere, which we have already discussed. This figure is for better understanding. As the diagram shows, muscle fiber containing sarcolemma and mitochondria. Here, this is H zone, which is a region of myosin only. I band contains action only. A band contains both actin and myosin filament. It is the middle line known as M line. I hope this topic is very clear to you. Now, our last topic is neuromuscular junction, which is also known as myoneural junction. It is a chemical synapse between a motor neuron and a muscle fiber. The nerve fibers are able to transmit a signal to the muscle fiber by releasing of acetylcholine and causes muscle contraction. It is a site of signal exchange, and it converts electrical impulses generated by motor neuron into electrical activity in muscle fibers. Neurotransmitters then cross the synaptic cleft and bind to the receptor. Look at the diagram. This is axon along with the mitochondrion and its nerve terminal, and this is synaptic vesicle which contains the neurotransmitter. This one is the muscle fiber that has acetylcholine receptors where neurotransmitters bind, and then contraction and relaxation occurs. That was all about skeletal muscle, and if you have any queries regarding our lecture, then ask in the comments section. Thank you. Keep watching and take care.